Good evening, good evening, everybody. I'd like to record a video about my traveling experiences. This time is about Norway. I will be sharing about Norway. Just for remember, stand in front of the mirror and say at least 5 positive things about you. I'm confident. I'm okay, English is gone. I'm a go-getter. I'm passionate. I'm confident. I'm a good communicator. Okay, I've gone more than 5. We hate ourselves too much that we cannot even say one positive thing about ourselves. We're too hard on ourselves. Be kind to yourself, because the world is already doing the unkind to you, is already mean to you, so be kind to yourself. I'd like to share about Norway, my experiences being a traveler in Norway. I'm going to record a video about my experiences, my visa being rejected, me getting an accident on the way to the airport, but it is a story for another day. But now let's start when my visa was approved and I had to travel. It was approved. Then I asked a friend who lived in Pretoria to fetch it and send it to me. I opened it in the car and I immediately sent Trond a message informing him that my visa has been approved. He was so happy. He was teary because we've been struggling to try and make me go to Norway. He has been to South Africa already. Then it was going to be my turn to visit his country. So I started now my traveling arrangements. Of course, me, when I travel, I'm always having a problem with the luggage. This lady who at the airport is always told to reduce the luggage. I don't know, maybe I like to pack all the time. Even if I weigh my luggage, I always have that experience, which reminds me I need to go to Game and check a scale for a luggage scale. I just need to check that, which reminds me. So of course my clothes were reduced, and then I took them back to the car, and then I traveled. What we did with Trond, we had an arrangement that he pays half of my ticket and I pay half of my ticket. That has always been the arrangement, because I'm an independent woman. I pay for my own things. So he booked on his own using a travel agent. I don't use a travel agent when it's my turn to book. I just book and get into the flight and go. I think the first time I used Emirates, I'm so used to Emirates that my experiences with other airlines are limited when I'm traveling overseas. So I left South Africa. There was a time when I missed a flight. So I have traveled to Norway many times. So now I'm not sure if this is the time when I missed a flight or it's not the time. But because I lived a little bit far from East London, where I usually take flights, I live in rural areas. I have to drive a lot. So I drove to the airport, but I think I slept in East London. Or I was dropped so that someone had to go back with the car. I think I was dropped so that someone had to go back with the car, because to park it at the airport for that long, I was going to pay a lot of money. That is not an important detail, but the detail that is important is that I found the flight and then went to Johannesburg. I waited for many hours, but usually I go and have breakfast if I'm hungry, or lunch, or a cup of tea, and wait. And then that's what I did, and then in the end, the flight came. I guess okay, I've been on too many flights that I missed this detail. Some flights I take at night, some I take during the day, so I'm not gonna be sure, but I promise to take note next time of the time of the flight. But I would like to think it was 7 o'clock at night, because I arrived in Norway the next day, and I was on transit in Dubai for a long time. Then I took another flight to Norway, which was also a long flight. Yeah, so I boarded Emirates. I love Emirates. I'm always fascinated by the ladies who are dressed in their uniforms, the air hostesses, and I don't take note of many things in the plane because I just put on the headphones and watch the movies because these are quite long flights. But I've learned that wear comfortable shoes because your feet are down for a long time, and usually my feet are swollen, and it doesn't always help that I wear sneakers because at some point your feet get tired of being in the sneakers. You want to take them off, but you're afraid that maybe they will be too tight when you wear them because your feet are swollen. Of which sometimes it doesn't do that. So yes, it was at night. It was at night because I remember we traveled for about 7 to 8 hours to Dubai. Then we arrived in Dubai in the early hours of the morning. Oh, I love Dubai. I'm fascinated by Dubai. Fascinated by the lights. I'm fascinated by the airport shops. I'm fascinated airport. I'm fascinated by perfumes. I'm fascinated by their lipsticks and everything. I love Dubai. So it's my favorite country of exit, of transit. So I just love to be in that airport. I don't know, for one reason or another. But you must remember the first thing. Oh, you will need most the visa to enter Norway, but you also need a visa to transit in Dubai. So I applied for the visa to Norway, then I also needed the visa to stay, just to be on transit, to stay at the airport. uh, Okay, I needed the visa because I wanted to go shopping in Dubai. But on transit, you don't necessarily need a visa to transit because you stay at the airport. As I indicated, I travel too much. I just mix the details sometimes. So in Dubai, the first thing that I got was to get coffee because it was early in the morning and I was tired. And I think I get a sandwich to snack. By the time you arrive at the airport, you are thirsty, you are hungry, and you are tired. So, and then I waited for my next flight, and you have to listen to details, or you have to be sharp-minded and read in the information boards at the airport. Otherwise you will miss your flight. So you have to read, ask. The only challenge about asking in Dubai is the language. Yes, they hear, but sometimes it is the language. So just be inquisitive, especially if you know that your flight times are, there's not much time between your flights. Sometimes it's 2 hours only. You can even take there's an airport, let's call it airport car, that also makes you run if you are late. And I take it so that you don't miss your flight, because it's some work also to do the boarding and all of international flights and all of that, and the verification of us. So one more thing, in Dubai we take trains to go to the places where we'll be boarding, to our border zones. Let's call them border zones. You take a train, so you have to be sharp, you have to check the trains, you have to be asked, and you have to be quick. So I also took the trains, and I was fascinated by Dubai, and I was excited. So I was in the plane to Norway. The plane was full. I was disrespected by three women who were dressed in Muslim attires. Um, okay, I wanted to take them on, but I was like, you can't help some people who think just because of the color of the skin they are better than the others. I should have taken it up. Their disrespect was they were in the plane from Dubai to Norway. So in the Norway, I arrived in Oslo. Oh, Norway is a very beautiful country. It's a clean country. It's a perfect country, by the way. So I arrived in Norway. Then I also asked questions. I think I bought a cool drink. I was also thirsty and some water. But the time now was in the afternoon the next day, and I left South Africa at night the previous day, so it was in the afternoon the next day. Then I asked questions. I got my flight, and I didn't even book the flight. It was booked by Tron, and then their names. When you call their names, you have to do this Tron. So I always struggle. So he's the one that booked the flight, and then I waited for the flight to come, and people were staring because one thing in Norway, it's better in Oslo where I landed because you see some few black people, black African people, but when you go to Bergen, where I was heading to, I could feel that I was black. There were few people who were black there, so even in the plane, maybe I was the only black people. The funniest thing was that I was put alone in the chair. Maybe it was because the flight was empty, because when I came back there was someone next to me, so I could have said it was isolation or discrimination, but no, when I came back with the same flight I was not put in a chair alone. Yes, the food in the flight, it's something that I take for granted because I've been in flights for as much as I can remember. But let's just say the food is nice. If you are on diet, you don't get the diet food. And by the time you're in the plane, by the time they serve food, you're too hungry to say no, to even remember that you're on diet. So I arrived in Bergen in the evening, and Tron was there waiting for me. I went to fetch my luggage. People were staring, and then he comes and we hug, and people are staring. They will stare, most. They stay in interracial uh, relationships. When they see black and white, people will stare, and I'm beginning to think they stay in every country, so they will be staring. So they were staring, and then so he came, he picked me up at the airport, and then we left. We went to his house. It was raining, I guess. That time when I went, it was September, but it was rain in September because it was raining. And then we arrived in his house. It was not a big house, but it was okay for him because he lived alone. One thing about Norway that I noticed, there's something that I should have informed you earlier, is that Norway has a population of about 5.2 million. Maybe by the time I was there it was 4 point something, but currently it's 5.2 million. It's not a big country, but it's a very beautiful country. There are a few things that I noticed. One, they stare. So I think they are judgmental of the interracial relationships. I think there was a time when we saw young boys who were teenagers, who were trying to do, let's just say, funny jokes because of the peer pressure. Girl, you should know me that I'm boyish. While Trond was not seeing them, I gave them a look and I changed their walks immediately, telling them that I can mess with them. And I know I am scary when I do that. And then another thing that um, I noticed about Norway is that it is a beautiful country, very beautiful. It is surrounded by water. We travel by boats and cars. When you take a boat, they call it a ferry. The car is put in the boat, and then the car or the bus travels under the water. So after we leave the ferry again, you will be in a bus or in a car. It travels under the water, under the sea. I was not aware, and I was not even scared up until Tron told me when we visited his parents that we now were under the sea. And I was like, oh my God, now if we're under the sea, what if the bridge breaks and I die in another country? And I didn't even think about it before he told me. And then One other thing, people travel by trains. Your fast trains like the How train. Yeah, I loved the experiences of the trains, the cars, the buses, the ferries, everything, and I took them all. And then there's water. And another thing that fascinated me was that during the snowy season, I won't know which season because I've been to Norway many times now. During the snowy season, the rivers freeze. The rivers freeze, and people will go and is it skating and do the skating. And with me and my forever scared attitude of doing things that will kill me, I would be wondering what if that ice can crack and then you go down, because we see those things in the movies. Another thing that I liked about Norway was the fact that you can carry your phone even at night. Nobody will mind or will take it. But one thing about the food, I didn't like the food that much, especially the restaurant food. I preferred the familiar food was the food that was cooked at home, but when we go out to restaurants, I just didn't enjoy their food. And Norway has very beautiful clothes. I've got a pair of shoes. It was not even new shoes, but they were genuine. That was many years ago. I still own that pair of shoes, and it still looks beautiful. Um, Norwegian people, let me call them ladies and gentlemen. They are not loud like me. Okay. So one more thing that I noticed now when I visited trans family. Okay, there was something that I'll just say they are suspicious by nature until you prove yourself, because when my visa was rejected, I was a little bit hurt to hear that his family, I won't say which member of the family did that, but he doubted me. He said, meaning I was not who I said I was. That is why my visa was rejected. But I didn't even have reasons to lie and say I am this when I'm not that. So I guess they get suspicious of people until they prove themselves. Okay, I've seen one or two individuals, but I thought they had mental challenges who, when they saw me, literally ran. It was a lady and a man, but they were quite elderly. And one thing that also happened, I didn't know if it was because they also don't believe me or what. When I visited trans family, then they would interview me, ask me questions. But when they ask me questions, they would go to the iPad and check if my answers were true. That was funny for me. But in general, it was fine. Some people were smiling, some people were nice, but some people were not nice, which happens in any other country. I also loved the pavilion very much. And the first time when I was there, it was in September. I saw beautiful flowers, beautiful rivers, which I enjoyed. Places that promoted serenity in my mind. So, in general, Norway is a beautiful country, it's a safe country. Some people are nice, some are not. And I felt black when I was at the airport because there are not so many black people, especially in Bergen. The food is not nice in restaurants. I prefer the home cooked food. There is not meat like in South Africa. There is meat, but meat is not as fat as in South Africa. South Africans love meat. We love meat. So I didn't see fat milk where I would eat ulusu namathumbe gusha, where I would braai pork. Uh, it's not like that. Okay, on Christmas Day with trans family, we had a variety of meats, but still, it's not like in South Africa. I can't say much about desserts because I don't remember, and I'm not into desserts. So basically, that is what I can say about Norway. I love the fact that it is surrounded by water, especially Bergen. In December, the weather is cold, there is snow, and also wet. Yeah, that is all that I can say about Norway. but I've loved it. I've loved everything about it, all the positive ones, and then and the places in Norway. Are we calling them stippy? Stippy. You know, when we took walks, I struggled a bit because some areas were steepy, but most people walk because they are healthy. Some take bicycles, some take cars, but they like to walk. I remember I also was taken to a restaurant by Tron's mom. It was nice, but for me, it was funny that we had something like a toast with eggs in a restaurant. That's why I say I don't like the restaurant food. Um, and another time, his mother and his father took us out in a place. Even though we left the car somewhere, we climbed. I think I have a photo where I'm on top of a big stone, because we climbed. Yeah, basically that's it. I would say even his family, they did try to be nice, but I think also this interracial dating and these interracial marriages are strange to people, so we need to be fair when we analyze their behavior against us. Cultural shocks. I didn't get many cultural shocks because even though I'm a rural girl, I regard myself as well traveled, as advanced in terms of cultures, and I'm one person who reads a lot about cultures because I'm interested in cultural practices, different cultural practices. So I didn't have many cultural shocks, and I'm a traveler, and so I didn't see any cultural shocks really. But what I noticed, there are also farms in Norway where people are farming sheep, and then there are round things in those farms. I remember transparents explain what are those round things in those farms. I can't remember, but I saw a lot of sheep farming there. Yeah, so yeah, Norwegians are family people. During Christmas, they are together. They visit one another on Boxing Day. Norwegians celebrate birthdays as families. I got gifts, and I also bought them gifts when I was there for Christmas, and I also got gifts, which was nice. So basically, that's all I can say about Norway. Um, Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to share about other countries. I'm going to share about Ireland. I'm going to share about my visa problems. I'm going to share how my visa has been rejected in some other countries. I'm going to share how I was detained in Ireland because of a visa challenges. And then lastly, I'm going to share about my traveling experiences in America. God bless you.